All right, so today's coach, we can't go on campus for coffee because this coach has gone across the street to the pit stop a trillion times in his life. So we'll see if he's ready to go. Is you ready?
Ready to roll.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Bitter batter.
Yeah, got my cup. I'm ready.
All right.
Can't wait.
How many times do you think you come here a day?
At least twice, I would say.
At least twice?
Yeah, depending on what time we start, sometimes more, sometimes less, but definitely the cheapest cup of coffee you'll have to buy, 30-cent refill.
That's
I even brought my cup so you didn't have to buy me a new one.
You're a saint for that.
Yeah. Trying to help the deficit.
Since his arrival on campus in 2007, today's guest has been a mainstay in the third base dugout at Peaceful Valley. Working his way up from graduate assistant to associate head coach, he began his tenure as head baseball coach in 2015. Since then, he has averaged 27 wins a season and took the 2019 team to the Division III World Series. His name is Chad Fitzgerald, and he's the only coach I've ever seen get ejected, then talk his way back into the game. This is Coaches on Campus Getting Coffee. So let's look back at last year, the 2019 season. Obviously a banner year. You guys go all the way to the World Series. It started off with a great Florida trip. Is there a moment, obviously everybody thinks of the dog pile, maybe Matt Sykes' catch out in left field during the Super Regionals, but was there a moment maybe earlier in the season that you thought, this is a team that's got something special, it's got some potential?
Well, I do think it started early. I mean, we lost our first game down in Indianapolis against Anderson. We would hope to come back and play well when we got down to Florida, and then all of a sudden we were losing 6-0 after the first inning. So we came back and ended up winning that game. Lost game 3, but then I think things really started to turn after that in Florida. Ended up going 5 or 6-0 the rest of that trip, and I think that really set the tone for a great year. But the big moment once we came back up north, in my opinion, unfortunately, is when Keaton got hurt. He came out of the lineup. We ended up losing that game, but came back the next day to play a very good LaRoche team and found a way to win, not at full strength. And that's when I think our team as a whole really started to believe that it doesn't really matter what the circumstances are, who we're playing, that we have a chance to win on any given day. Last year, you guys were really good at separating games, and you didn't lose 2 games in a row until, unfortunately, to the World Series. But is that something you can coach, or is that just part of the mentality of the guys to be able to separate those? I think a little bit of both. I mean, we always preach, you don't want to get too high, you don't want to get too low in any given moment. We always try to stay somewhere in the middle, and I think it reflects the way that we practice. If we have a bad practice, then we have to come back and have a better practice the next day. And if we have a great practice, let's try to replicate it. But if we don't, there is another day. I mean, that's one of the good big sayings in baseball. There is more times than not always a tomorrow or another game, and I think our guys did a good job of separating and forgetting, so short memories, and coming back the next day to try and win.
So then a bigger picture separating, last year was last year, and what happened doesn't really matter this year. Nobody cares, and if anything, there's a bigger bullseye in your back. Instead of being the hunters, you guys now are the hunted. Yeah. How does that change your mentality, or does it change your mentality?
I was worried about it, I guess, coming into the year. I mean, we have a totally different team with a lot of the same faces, I guess, if that makes sense, where, right out of the gate this fall, I mean, rarely did you hear about what happened last year, and this team's different. You can't replace the guys that we graduated. I mean, those guys had great years, but we have to find what's new about this team, and I think that's what our guys have done a really good job at so far, and excited to see where they wind up this weekend, and hopefully come out and play well against 2 pretty good teams.
Since you've been here since you guys in the fall of 2007, you've had really a very remarkable stretch of just solid baseball, above average, maybe a B-plus level that whole time. And I think from an outside perspective, it's because of the diligence you guys do in the recruiting process. You guys cast a pretty wide net over the kind of the Midwest, and it's kind of fun to listen to you guys as you guys are watching collegiate baseball on ESPN or the SEC network, Big Ten network. Oh, that's a guy that went to here. That's a guy that went to here. Walk us through that recruiting process for you guys.
Well, for us, it's a lot of time, a lot of miles, a lot of just being on the road. constantly we're traveling and going different places and different tournaments, and sometimes we know what we're getting into and sometimes we don't. So if it doesn't matter where a player's from, if we see them kind of within our 4 or 5 hour window of where we travel, we will call somebody if we think they have the ability to help us. And I think that showed in some of the guys that we've gotten from New York and New Jersey and Maryland and some of that over the years. But my thought is we're going to find the best players that we can, guys that we have the best opportunity to come in and help our program, and we're going to do our best to get them on our campus. I mean, obviously it's a beautiful campus and a beautiful field, and we feel like if we get people here, we have a chance to make them part of the program.
Talk about the game day experience here at Peaceful Valley. People talk about the peaceful hop. Sometimes you get a bad hop off the wall. Pretty cavernous left center, right center field, but pretty average. Pretty playable down the right field, down the left field lines. The fans, especially on those spring days, they get out of class, they come down. We don't ask what's in those red Solo cups.
Coffee from the pit stop.
Absolutely, it's 30 cents for a refill. What is that like to be down here, and maybe whether it's a Super Regional Championship game or whether it's non-conference Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, I think just the setting down here, kind of sitting down in the bowl, kind of for a long time we were on our own, and I think it's awesome now that softball's down here, where some days we have games on the same day, or they're practicing, or we're practicing, and it's always entertaining when we're having OAC doubleheaders, and at 1 o'clock there's a lot of families and friends of the program, but you can tell when classes get out at 3 o'clock as you start to see cars and trucks driving down the hill to park behind the right field wall, and yeah, it's exciting. It's fun. It's loud. For as wide open as it is down here, I think it's a very intimidating place to play. And the first thing that people talk about when they walk in is the wall. And people, well, how do you play it? Well, we just play it. So I guess that's just
it's
kind of
wood
our mentality.
From dugout to dugout. It didn't used to be. That's about 10 years old or so. Yeah. And it does change the way you have to play, especially in the outfield.
A little bit, yeah. Well, it's more of
ricochet after that.
Just more of a mentality too. Our guys, we play it so much and we work on it that we're not going to slow down. We got to know where we're at in the field. We got to just play in our words, play tougher than the other team, where we're not going to let that wall worry us.
A lot of schools have gone to a couple in the conference, now maybe 3 or 4 have the turf infields or even the turf entire fields. Is that something that you wish to have?
I think I'm a little bit of a naturalist with the game, where I like the natural surface, and the national championship game is played on a natural surface. But going through the process last year and over the past couple of years, 2015 we were in a regional that was on turf. Last year the regional was on turf. But I think just kind of where we're located in the country, I think it makes a lot of sense to have one. And days like this, we're not in the gym, we're out here working. So. But it would be nice, but you can tell over the history of the program, it hasn't hurt us a whole lot, so maybe someday. Yeah.
One of the other things you guys have really been good at over the years is you find that junior, that senior who hasn't played a ton, maybe got some looks, didn't get some looks. I'm thinking of like a Ross Pruitt, a Christian Verde, last year Kane Bateman, who as a freshman, sophomore, junior, got playing time, but it was always kind of that guy you were hoping to step up, that just whenever the opportunities presented itself, ran into a good pitcher or something like that, and then he goes out and sets a program record for hits, finishes second in the nation in hits. How do you find those kids, or how do you keep those kids who maybe haven't, they come here thinking that they're going to play all 4 years and be a 160 game starter, and they don't get that opportunity until their senior year? Well,
I think it all goes back to the recruiting message that we send the second they step on campus, and we tell them this is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. We're going to ask them to do things that they've never done, put in hours that they've never put in before, and that it's a family. So good, bad, and different. Everybody has their time or their moment. Some last a little longer than others, but at the end of the day, it's a team first, and a family first, and some guys it just takes a little bit longer to develop. Some guys, some of those guys you exampled weren't even in those positions when they started their careers. So, I think the friendship and the bond that our guys have together, I think, is what keeps them as part of the program. As much activities we have in practice as far as game simulation and game reps, and been fortunate for for us because again we've had some players have some really big years and some really good years that didn't the year before, and a possibility this year as well for some guys that have waited their turn.
You go back to that toughness, and maybe that's part of it with guys who are still bought into the program. You guys practice ungodly early. You guys are in the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning if you can. You guys are playing games when it's 42 degrees because you want to get out there. You guys fundraise. You guys work hard. Is that all just part of that mentality of being tougher than the other team?
Not necessarily being tougher, but just being our toughest team, like ourselves, being as tough as we can be, where we're not going to let the cold weather affect us. If we're playing in it, they're playing in it. I mean, there's other teams that get up early. There's other teams that stay up late. Whatever it is. But I think it's just a message that's sent. I mean, I think we hold 2 of the top 3 national records for getting hit by pitch in a season. It's been a while, and obviously the rules have hindered that a little bit. But I think it's a mentality that we talk about. Hard nosed, blue collar. Dirtbags, guys that if you could watch us take BP, there's not a single clean person left on the field. Even our pitchers that just pitch, our pitcher onlys. Yeah. Sometimes I don't like it, but don't be an athlete, be who you are. And it's just kind of carried over to the way that I coach, the way that we coach, and I think the way that our guys play.
Is there any better feeling than watching your guys dogpile on the mound?
No. No, it's an easy answer. No. And it's awesome that we're able to do that here. I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about how the playoff format has shifted a little bit in Division III baseball, where campuses get an opportunity to host games like that. There's the final 16 teams in the country where we wouldn't have been able to do that before. So certainly. I think it was an awesome atmosphere down here for it.
You guys scored. I mean, that inning right before that, you guys scored 10 runs off of Worcester, who is always a top 25 team. It seems always a hard team to beat. And could there have been enough runs to score in that inning? Were you ever comfortable with that last out?
You want to say yes, you want to say no. The rain was coming, so I knew at some point that we still had to find a way to get 3 outs. And fortunately, I guess it missed us, and we were able to finish. But at that point in the year, every team's really, really good. So we were going to keep scoring until they were able to get us out.
You guys have added over the last few seasons games before Florida. You kind of roll the dice a little bit with weather, with field conditions. Just trying to get out there before Florida?
Yeah, basically. I mean, the preseason is great. The way that we practice is great. But I think our guys hate each other at times a little bit. Just, again, back to the competition. We love guys that like to compete. And that competition day in and day out against the same guys gets, I don't want to say stale because, we keep going at it. But that light at the end of the tunnel, knowing you get a chance to play somebody else is big. So, just want to get out and play as quick as we can. So against some other good competition, heading over to Indianapolis this year with Whitewater and Franklin and Manchester, and even before that at BW with Oswego, I'm a Coach Cronin, and Anderson, who we've opened up with. So should be some good tests, some different teams that we can't play when we come back up north.
Well, good luck this season.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Thanks for
joining
the coffee.
us. You're welcome. Cheap date. Appreciate that.
Yeah, hey, I do what I can.